Hi there. We're here in the morning, sitting on the patio before it gets too hot. We're going to do chapter 37 of Odd Thomas. Um, when we left Odd, he had taken a fungus man's body that he'd found in his apartment out to a secluded area in order to hide it. And anyway, he finds himself confronted with a pack of coyotes. And so that's where we start, chapter 37. With their sinewy legs, lean flanks, and narrow muzzles, coyotes appear to be designed for speed and savage assault. And yet, even as they face you down with a predatory gleam in their eyes, they have some of the appeal of dogs. Prairie wolves, some people call them, and although they lack most of the charm of wolves, they do have a puppy-like quality because their feet are too big for their bodies and their ears are too big for their heads. These three beasts appeared more quizzical than threatening, if you failed to read the right message in their tense posture and the flare of their nostrils. Their large ears were pricked, and one of them cocked its head as if it found me to be deeply puzzling, an opinion of me that is not limited to coyotes. Two stood in front of the Chevy, perhaps 14 feet away. The third waited between me and the passenger side of the car, where I had left the rear door open. I let out a shout at the greatest volume I could muster, for common wisdom holds that sudden loud noises will frighten coyotes into flight. Two twitched, but none of them retreated so much as an inch. Stewed in my own sweat, I must have smelled like a salty but delicious dinner. When I stepped back from the threshold, they didn't spring at me, which meant their boldness had not yet matured into the absolute conviction that they could take me down. I let the door fall shut between us. Another door at the farther end of the hall also opened to the outside, but if I slipped out by that exit, I would be at too great a distance from the Chevy. I couldn't hope to circle around behind the car and get in through the door that I'd left open. Long before I got there, the three brethren of Wily E would have caught my scent and would be waiting, and none would need to rely on a Byzantine killing machine purchased by mail from Acme Inc. If I waited inside until dawn, I might escape them, for these were night hunters and possibly too hungry to outweight me. The fuel gauge in Rosalita's car had shown half a full tank, which might last long enough, but the engine would almost surely overheat before the fuel gave out, leaving the car unusable. Besides, the batteries in my flashlight most likely wouldn't last an hour. For all my brave talk earlier about being unafraid of the unknown, I could not tolerate being trapped in the pitch-black Quonset hut in the company of a dead man. With nothing to entertain my eyes, I'd obsess on the recollected image of his bullet wound. I'd be convinced that every breath of the night breeze, whispering at a broken window, was in fact the sound of Bob Robertson peeling out of his cocoon. I went in search of something to throw at the coyotes. Unless I was prepared to strip the shoes off the corpse, I had nothing but the two empty beer bottles. After returning to the door with the bottles, I switched off the flashlight, jammed it under the waistband of my jeans, and waited a few minutes, giving peace a chance, but also letting my eyes adapt to darkness. When I opened the door, hoping the chow line had broken up and slouched away, I was disappointed. The three remained almost where they had been when I left them, two in front of the car, the third near the forward tire and the passenger side. In sunshine, their coats would be tan with reddish highlights and a peppering of black hairs. Here, they were the patinated gray of old silver. Subtly, their eyes glowed with a moony madness. Solely because it appeared to be the boldest of the trio, I pegged the nearest coyote as the pack leader. It was the biggest specimen as well, with a grizzled chin that suggested much experience in the hunt. Experts advise that, when confronted by an angry dog, you should avoid eye contact. This constitutes a challenge to which the animal will respond aggressively. If the canine in question is a coyote pondering your nutritional value, the experts will get you killed. Failure to make eye contact will be read as weakness, which indicates that you are suitable prey. You might as well offer yourself on a platter with double spuds twice in hell and an order of midnight whistleberries. Making eye contact with the pack leader, I tapped one of the bottles against the metal door frame, then tapped harder, breaking it. I was left holding the neck, jagged shards protruding from my fist. This would be a less than ideal weapon with which to confront an adversary that had the stiletto-packed jaws of a dedicated carnivore, but it was marginally better than my bare hands. I hoped to challenge them with such confidence that they would have a momentary doubt about my vulnerability. All I might need to reach the open back door of the Chevy was a 3 or 4 second hesitation on their part. Letting the door fall shut behind me, I moved toward the pack leader. At once it bared a wicked clench of teeth. A low, vibrous growl warned me to back off. Ignoring the warning, I took another step, and with a sharp snap of my wrist, I threw the intact beer bottle. It struck the leader hard on the snout, bounced off, and shattered on the pavement at his feet. Startled, the coyote stopped growling. It moved to the front of the car, not retreating from me, not drawing any closer either, but merely repositioning itself to present a united front with its two companions. This had the desirable effect of presenting me with a direct, unguarded route to the open back door of the Chevy. Unfortunately, a full-out run for cover would require that I take my attention off the pack. The moment that I sprinted for the car, they would spring at me. The distance between them and me was not much greater than the distance between me and the open door, and they were far quicker than I was. Holding the broken bottle in front of me, thrusting it at them in sharp, threatening jabs, I edged sideways toward the idling Chevy, counting every inch a triumph. Two watched with obvious curiosity, their heads raised, mouths open, tongues lolling, curious but also alert for any opportunity that I might give them. They stood with their weight shifted toward their hind legs, ready to launch forward with their powerful haunch muscles. The leader's posture troubled me more than that of the other pack members. Head lowered, ears laid back against its skull, teeth bared but not its tongue. This individual stared at me intently from under its lowered brow. Its forepaws were pressed so hard against the ground that even in the wan moonlight its toes spread in clear definement. With the forward knuckles sharply bent, the beast seemed to be standing on the points of its claws. Although I continued to face them, they weren't directly in front of me any longer, but to my right. The open car door was to my left. Fierce snarling could not have frayed my nerves as effectively as their bated breath, their expectant silence. Halfway to the Chevy, I figured out that I could risk a rush to the back seat, throw myself into the car, and pull the door shut, just in time to ward off their snapping jaws. Then I heard a muted growl to my left. The pack now numbered 4, and the fourth had stolen up on me from the back of the Chevy. It stood between me and the open door. Sensing movement to my right, I snapped my attention to the threesome again. During my brief distraction, they had slunk closer to me. Moonlight slivered a ribbon of drool that slipped from the lips of the pack leader. To my left, the fourth coyote's low growl grew louder, rivaling the grumble of the car. It was a living engine of death, idling right now, ready to shift into high gear, and at the periphery of my vision, I saw it creep toward me. Damn. All right, that was chapter 37. Those coyotes remind me of the Weeping Angels on Doctor Who. For those of you who are Doctor Who fans, don't blink, because when you blink is when they creep up on you. Anyway, that was chapter 37. See you next time.